Okay, welcome back. This is the first of probably three lectures that will be about the comparison paper. So first of all, let's just talk about the assignment. It has been um, published on Canvas about half a week or so ago, and on it you will see that there's a Word document assignment, and the Word document. So this is under modules, by the way. Although it will also be posted under assignments, probably sometime later today. So you'll notice that there's a Word document assignment, and on the Word document assignment, it has a description of the whole assignment and how to compare the two works, all the qualities I'm asking for, as well as images of both works. But then, as well, there's a PDF where you have larger versions of the images and also close-ups of the images. I break the images down into sections so you can really see them zoomed in as closely as possible to help you with any kind of analysis that you would hope to do with the two pieces. And it's these two works here. Besides that, there's a separate Word document under those modules, which is called the Idea of Design, and in it, it covers a number of issues, talks a little bit about the difference between modernist ways of thinking about design and design elements versus Baroque ways of thinking about composition. And but it also just goes through the whole kind of list of everything that we have covered about design in the class and more. So it covers all of the design elements. So in class so far we've covered line and mark, and we've covered shape and value and form, and we've covered texture and space and color, and we'll cover color some more next week. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And we've also covered a number of design issues and design principles along the way. Most notably, in a number of different ways, we keep returning to the principle of hierarchy and emphasis. So all of that then, and that set of notes and it's kind of an elaborate outline form should really make sure that you have all the information you might need. I also strongly recommend rereading, I believe it's chapters 3 and 4 in the book. The two chapters on 3, I believe, is on the design elements, and 4 is on the principles of design. Reread those over again. We've been reading them all along in the class, bit by bit, as the topics have come up. But still, I think kind of seeing them as a whole would definitely help you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about what would be relevant issues to discuss between these two works, and then I'll start making some more specific comparisons as we look at other works. Obviously, I don't want to give you too many answers when it comes to these two. So, in terms of one of the things the paper says is you have to discuss each work or the comparison between the two works. You have to discuss at least 2 art elements, and I think at least 2 design principles. And so I would say that there are a number of options, but logically you might want to think about line as a comparison between the two works. And one of the first questions you might want to ask yourself is, in which work is the line more obviously and overt, right? More kind of like a statement on the surface of the painting, and in which one is the line and the use of line more embedded in the work, more a part of the shapes and the tones of the rest of the work. And then separate from that issue is just an issue of the quality of the lines. Which work maybe has more rectilinear and angular and sharp and aggressive and active kind of lines, and which work has maybe more curvilinear and languorous and maybe at times almost calligraphic lines in the work. Well, wait, let's go back one more time. So another issue I think you should definitely think about is, in terms of design issues, would be hierarchy and emphasis. In both works, they make decisions about saying what is and what isn't important, and so you need to think about how you do that, right? Like how each work says what things are important and what's not. And so what's interesting to me is that although they do have different kinds of emphases in different places, fundamentally they're both saying one thing, one central kind of thing is the most important thing in the piece, which is a similar thing, but they do it in very different ways. And that would be then the next question to ask is, in what ways do they do that? So besides line, you might also want to think about value and how value is used, how value is created, right? Like we just talked about in the last lecture that I did, and just kind of comparing, like the value range between the two of them, the speed of gradation, all kinds of qualities you could. Now, let me also, before I start moving on talking about other works, let me also say that one of the main things I don't want is I don't want you to spend a lot of time talking about the literal things that you see in the painting. To give you an example, I've had times where people have counted the number of figures in each painting, and that is not really a type of formal analysis, and it's not a necessary thing to do, and definitely not something you should spend a lot of time on. Or similarly, spending time talking about the fact that this cross in this painting is a T-shaped cross, doesn't have a top part, whereas in Rubens' painting it does have a top part. That is not particularly an important part of the of a formal analysis. Although you could say that that top part right there, because it does help to kind of finish off a kind of group shape, kind of goes right close to the top edge of the painting, that could be a formal element that is worth discussing if that was part of your argument. Okay, so let's get to a first comparison between these two works. And so the first thing I want to say about these two works is that you probably should notice some similarities. And both works are dealing with pairings. In this case, a pair of figures, right? So two figures in each work. But we don't have to worry that much about, in our analysis of the difference between them, as to anything beyond that. We don't have to worry about that these are bathers, that they are probably there, or clam diggers, right? That they're probably at the shore, and that these are probably people who have been recently betrothed and are posing for a painting to commemorate the fact that they have wed recently. And it doesn't, just because it's the wedding portrait, it doesn't necessarily mean, and by the way, that title is hotly debated among art historians, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was painted on their wedding day. Anyway, getting back. So what we should do instead is kind of focus on the formal issues, and I would say the very first thing we could talk about is talk about value range. Okay, I'm gonna